I think generically change is hard. People get comfortable and accustomed to a way of thinking and a way of living and a way of doing their work, and it just becomes easy. So change is difficult because it's hard. I mean, by definition, it takes more effort to change than to do the same thing you've been doing. I think what we're learning is that a lot of the change happens when you create experience in a very visceral, personal way that starts to bring people into it. The National Health Service in the UK issued a report in 2004 called Material Health. It was basically an ecological footprint of their National Health Service, which is the largest economic enterprise in all of the European Union. So it's a big, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of people. And it's also about their health system. They found that 22% of their ecological footprint was tied to direct energy use. 18% was tied to transporting patients, visitors, and staff. So, that's a pretty big signal of we've got a problem here. If almost as much of the ecological footprint related to direct energy is about the transportation, then let's not just pay attention to our boilers and our mechanical systems. Let's also pay attention to the fact that hospitals and healthcare facilities need to be guided by transit orientation, right? They need to think about how people get there, and do people have meaningful choices to get there? So all of a sudden location becomes this big issue. Data like that starts to be those sort of opening up the box, and you get these signals that say, we hadn't even been thinking about that. And for all these decades, healthcare has been, basically given permission to not have to ask the question about location. You think, all right, we've got to really be open to asking questions and engaging people who are our partners. These become our partners in this enterprise and in this journey to figure it all out. So we were working on this big project a few years ago, and I was talking to the mechanical engineer about mercury in their switches and in their relays and so on. He's like, no, we don't have mercury. And I'm like, well, let me just take a look. And I asked for the product data sheets, and sure enough, all of the products that had been specified for this project had mercury in them. I wasn't trying to put him in the box to the point before and say, you bad person. I think he literally thought that there was no longer mercury in any of this mechanical equipment. It never comes up, people don't talk about it. You believe that generally mercury's been, kind of cleared out. But in fact it's there, and so it becomes this peer-to-peer exchange, and hopefully, to build confidence to say the same manufacturer offers the alternative, they're just not quite, promoting it. And those in our mind become part of our demonstration projects, because we can then point to them on our next project to say, well, here's someone in your own hometown, right, that's already done this. I think a lot of it is waking people up. I think we have very little information out there about materials. We have some, but it's limited, and part of what's limited is once you start going back to, chemicals and molecules, you've got a huge black box. We know that there's more than 80,000 chemicals in commerce right now, and only a couple hundred are tested for human health. And we know that we've got some visible examples of an industry that's moved from bisphenol A plastic bottles to bisphenol A free, but we know we have a whole building material economy that in some of those materials are also bisphenol A dependent. And then there's a whole host of other chemicals too. So how do we start to, kind of build the weight of evidence that says we have an opportunity to be, clear about classes of chemicals and these chemicals of concern that now the EPA has started to identify. What worries me is what we don't know. And needing to be ready to ask a set of questions that are going to be more revealing of what it is we don't know, because we can be pulling away from other things that I think are needing significant attention, like toxicity, like water security, like food security, and so on. So I think we're going back to carbon as being this kind of the principal focus, but it shouldn't be at the expense of keeping that broad view of everything that we need to support life. Starts to ask, to sort of prompt the question, what is a healthy building? And I think that we are still creating a definition of what a healthy building is. I think we realize that it's not just about what happens within the walls, it's about what happens outside. It's about the whole series of consequences that are a result of decisions that we make. And at the end of the day, it's about making informed decisions. You need the data to say we want to make an informed decision about the materials that we're now bringing into our buildings.